about normal birth here today, so I'm going to focus a little bit on why this is required. Of course, we are all talking about healthy and evidence-based practices and the understanding where we have come from and why we have come to make birth as a medical experience rather than a human experience is what we are going to be talking about, and talking a bit more about what is spiritual midwifery. And all of us who work in this sphere and who are more aligned towards helping the woman be at the center of the birth experience rather than making us the center of the birth experience is what we are doing when we talk about midwifing a woman, spiritual midwifery. Whatever the titles that we own, we can call ourselves a doctor, we can call ourselves whatever else, but if we are helping her be at the center of the experience, that's what I would call a spiritual midwifery. I also want to talk a bit about the collaborative models of care, because yes, birth can be beautiful, but also it can have an emergent nature to it. And so how to bring both of it together in order to give the woman a safe and satisfying birth experience. That's what the focus of this talk is about. So I'm bringing up this to pay homage to our dais. You know, we have all come into being because of the wonderful women who helped our grandmothers and great grandmothers give birth. And until a few decades ago, women dais were at the center of every woman's birth experience, right? And it's just so sad that they have been taken out of the spectrum, talked about, and this is across the world in different ways, but especially in India, told that they are illiterate, and then they have been made into a sort of a place where they are illegal almost, right? And so there was this ageless wisdom that they had. And this slide, in fact, talks about something very, very important. When the baby would be born, the placenta, the Maya, the G, they would call it the G of the baby. They would not clamp and cut the cord. And if the baby was born blue, and there is several, places that this wisdom has been brought together. There is also a website called Matrika India. If any of you are interested, you can go look at that. There is immense amount of research that there is this social activist, anthropologist, Janet Chawla. She is actually an American, and she has studied the indigenous health practices, and she has talked a lot about all of these things. So it would be very interesting for some of you if you go there and take a look at it. But in the book also she talks about this, that the placenta was called the G of the child. And then if the baby was born blue, they would actually heat up the placenta, milk the cord, and give it to the baby until the baby could breathe on its own. So this wisdom has been there with us. But in just less than a century, I'm going to say, especially maybe even about 50 years or so, it has changed from this to this. And that gives us a moment of pause. What has changed in 50 years, right? Not our internal plumbing. We are still having the same uterus, the same fallopian tubes, right? And Dr. Neil Shah, he's there in Cambridge, Mass, and he talks about this, that, you know, if you adjust for everything, you know, like the obesity, the women getting, pregnant later on in life, there is diabetes, more diabetes, all of those things. Even if you adjust for all those parameters, there has not been a 500% change in the women's body, and we are seeing a 500% change in the cesarean section rates and the way we give birth, right? So it's something for us to think and pause about. So this is the atmosphere that we are giving birth in today. Family involvement is there. It is there at a level where they are like thinking that this woman ko kuch we have to take care of, but they have this myth कि हम कैसे उसका देखभाल करेंगे. Sometimes the first visit is really, to me, indicative of how the woman is coming into the room. जब husband wife अपने आप आते हैं, the woman has researched a little bit, she has come in, वो अलग तरीके का visit रहता है. Sometimes a woman will come in, and some of you can relate to this who are practicing, कि जब they come in, there is these 5 people who walk in with her first appointment, barely they have got pregnant. और महिलाओं को क्या बोला जाता है कि जैसे ही आप प्रेगनेंसी कंफर्मेशन करिए, दौड़ कर जाइए अपने डॉक्टर के पास, नहीं तो कुछ खराब हो जाएगा, है ना. सो इट्स जस्ट वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग टू मी कि जब वो व्हेन शी गेट्स अप, peas on a stick, finds out that she's pregnant, why does she need a doctor immediately? We'll talk about things that can go wrong, but that's very small percentage, right? But they are told, come to the doctor. जब डॉक्टर के पास आते हैं, तब mother is there, maybe dad is there, there's a sister, a brother, the husband, they are all coming in. And then I have to actually ask them कि आप लोग कौन कौन हो, मुझे बताइए कि who is who, because I want to make sure that we are protecting the privacy of this woman. And then when we talk about everything, and then when the woman leaves the room, the mother or mother-in-law might say, हम आपके हाथ में इसको सौंप रहे हैं. Like, why? That would be my question. Is she a barter system के हो गया, शादी हो गया, अभी she has gone to the in-laws place and now they are coming to me and saying I'm now putting her in your hands. She is an autonomous, independent woman who is having a child. तो जबकि वो family involvement वैसा वाला रहता है, and then the care providers restrict the family's involvement, saying कि हमको मालूम है आप लोग क्या जानते हो, right? So there is this whole blind trust, lack of fear, lot of fear, lack of knowledge, and then accepting of intervention, so much so that C-sections have become the new normal. And अगर एक society में अगर 80% of women are giving birth by cesarean, तो आपके बगल में इसको भी cesarean हो गया, उसको भी intervention हो गया, किसी को बोल दिया गया कि आपका fluid बहुत कम हो गया है, आपको cord around the neck है, ये है वो है, तो that becomes the new normal. अभी जो आते हैं तो इतना डर के साथ आते हैं यहाँ पर, then after the first consultation they will say first time we are feeling happy, you know, they will say कि अभी तक हम लोग reports लेके जाते थे, it was like an exam that ये लोग क्या बोलेंगे, ये report हुआ, ये हुआ, and they will come out and they're given literally 2 minutes. Now I can understand, doc, nobody gets into this profession to harm another person, I'm 100% sure of that, but we are not giving them time. Typical hospital room में what do we have? We have somebody lying here, एक ultrasound है, एक यहाँ पर बैठा है, एक बाहर बैठा है, so there is not even privacy to ask questions. 5 मिनट, 1-2 घंटे वेट करने के बाद 2 मिनट का टाइम मिलता है, उसमें वो क्या questions पूछेंगे, आप क्या answers दोगे, and then they have all these fears and that this is what is going to happen to me. And if you go into that process, outsourcing your body to your doctor, saying that मैंने आपको दे दिया, ये स्कैन हो गया, वो टेस्ट हो गया, ये ऐसे कर लेंगे, जब 37 वीक्स आएगा, if by chance somebody even asks, doctor, what is my chance of having a normal delivery? The doctor says, अभी क्यों पूछ रहे हो, at the end वक्त पर देखा जाएगा. Why? I would say if you are a healthy, normal, low risk woman, you should have at least a 90% chance of having a normal delivery. And why are we afraid to say that? Because then maybe the parent might turn and say, आपने तो हमें you gave us this thing that you will have normal delivery, now you are taking for a C-section. So there is no connection between the care provider and the person who is receiving the care. These are just current estimates. I won't waste too much time because I do understand we have less time. So this is India has doubled the world C-section average in the last decade. And this is my home state of Telangana. This has got 60% on the paper. Now, when you look at it, actually, the last data came out in 2021. The private hospitals have a 79.8% cesarean rate, which means 8 out of 10 women in private hospitals in my state give birth via cesarean section. And the overall rate is around 60%, and the government is doing a lot of initiatives, all that is going on, but that's terrible. Like if you say that you have 8 out of 10 people coming into the hospital are going to give birth by cesarean, something is terribly wrong with the process. WHO says that when 10 to 15% of if the cesarean section rate in any population anywhere across the world goes more than 10 to 15%, the risk outweighs the benefit. This is a major abdominal surgery. We have to put the words where they are. This is a major abdominal surgery. We cut through 7 layers to get to the uterus to get the baby out. In no other process anywhere in the world, किसी को kidney stone आया तो we won't take your kidney out, you know, and that's what is going on in this process. And so when it exceeds that 15%, the risks start to outweigh the benefits, like any surgical risk increases. But here is the thing, it's not just about lowering cesarean sections. We also have to think, how do we provide optimal, respectful and safe care to the mother? Anecdotally, I'm sure many of you have heard the woman getting slapped on the thigh, being told like, अगर आपको तभी दर्द नहीं हुआ तो अभी दर्द क्यों होता है, do this thing, lie down, don't shout, don't open your mouth, नीचे के तरफ की लो, आप अगर मुंह खोलते हो तो ये खराब हो जाएगा, listen to us, we will not allow you to do certain things. And I go, why can we not allow? Why does the word allow come into a bodily function, right? Also saying things like, if you do this, then your baby may not make it. That's what I call as playing the dead baby card, and babies are very smart. smart. They don't go from healthy to unhealthy like this. So I think looking at all those processes, what kind of information, what kind of environment are we giving this woman to birth, where we are saying, by doing all of this, and if you listen to us, we are saving your life, when your life actually did not need to be saved in the first instance, right? Okay, so this is what I talked about. No dignity, no privacy. Starts with pubic shaving and enema. We have to wonder, why is pubic shaving? There is hair is there for a purpose. हम उसको shave क्यों करते हैं? For whose benefit? It's not, baby is not getting anything. I don't know how many of you have heard the word microbiome. Our body is made of 3 trillion bacteria, and those 3 trillion bacteria, most of them work beautifully together to give us make the system that we are. When we take off some of those good bacteria, betadine से swab करो उसको, baby बाहर आता है betadine सूंघ कर. Why? Enema, for what purpose? Woman is supposed to pee, supposed to poo. We are like, blood आया, very good, we are vampires. होने दो bleeding. Okay, not like abnormal bleeding, obviously. Poop आया, कोई बात नहीं, आने दो, because that means the baby is hitting the rectum, and the next thing the baby is going to be born. And we are taking off all this in the middle of pain. We are shoving an enema into a rectum and saying, for whose purpose? For me? The dreaded internal exam. Women tell me from the next birth that they have with me that मैं labor pain सहन कर सकती थी, पर मैं internal exam का pain नहीं सहन कर पा रही हूँ. People don't have second children because they dread what is done to them in the hospital. And I just want to talk about this again. Matrika, when they did all their interviews with people, they went into the Delhi slum and they asked women, because government gives people incentives, right? कि आप जाके government hospital में birth कर लो. So they were told, आप क्यों नहीं जा रहे हो? तो one of the women told them कि वहाँ पर तो या तो छोटा ऑपरेशन होगा, नहीं तो बड़ा ऑपरेशन होगा. बड़ा ऑपरेशन being a C-section, छोटा ऑपरेशन being episiotomy. So this is they dread going into the hospital. Induction, augmentation, क्या medicines डाल रहे हैं, absolutely nothing is told. In any other profession anywhere in the world, if you did not give information and did something without consent, you would be in jail. But because we have a baby to take care of, nobody talks about it. No information given, food and water withheld, use of stirrups, fundal pressure, routine episiotomy, cord clamped and cut, baby taken away from mother, and we call this normal delivery. There's nothing normal about it. Some of you would have seen these scenes. For some, it may be too graphic, but this is what we are doing. We are taking, that is why we call it delivery. I call it, again, torture, because delivery is for pizzas. Babies are born, they should be birthed by their mother. So this history I won't go too much into. Again, I'm looking at the time because this is another topic for another day. But because mortality and morbidity was unchecked, we went into the hospital, and now we are seeing this weird constellation of signs where childbirth has become a medical epidemic. Most of the mothers, when you do surveys to them, and again I won't read out everything, 3 out of 10 babies are induced because they are large. But 4 out of 5 give birth to average size babies. क्या बोला जाता है महिलाओं को? अभी 38 weeks हो गया है. Your baby is only going to get big. Why do you want to keep the baby inside? चलो induce करके निकाल देते हैं. They are not told that the first time mother's cesarean section rates, if she is induced without going into labor on her own, can be within anywhere between 50 to 80%. If she was given that information, perhaps she would choose differently. And the ultrasound estimates of baby size can be off by 500 grams. अभी मेरे में 500 grams कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. Baby में 500 grams plus minus, that is a big fear that is put into them, right? They are given labor analgesia. Only 1 out of 20 mothers, that means 5%, get all the healthy birth practices. And this is in the US. Nobody here has done any studies. This is in the US. Even in the US, we are not doing great. In the US, currently 1 out of every 3 babies is born by a C-section, which is terrible. So these are the healthy birth practices. Let labor begin on its own. This is what the Lamaze education model is founded on. I will not do a single birth without all of my parents attending Lamaze classes, because I want them to be equal to me when it comes to making choices for themselves. In an emergency, they understand I am the one with the knowledge, the skills, the experience, the education to guide them. But for the vast majority, I want them to know that this is the first thing. Let labor begin on its own. Walk, move and change positions. Ensure continuous labor support. Avoid unnecessary interventions. pelvis push upright and keep the mother and baby together. And I just want to bring this up over here. This is the pelvis. You lie down. This is the only diameter that the baby can go through. The sacrum is curved, right? And when you're upright, that's the dimension. When you go on your hands and knees, in our olden times they used to sell kachra pocha lagao. Abhi to bada sa chhada hai, to the pocha. This is the dimension that the baby got when we were squatting on Indian toilets. 30% increase in pelvic diameters. So obviously it's a biomechanical thing that the mother and baby have to do in order to move into the birth canal and have a safe birth. I'm looking at time. I won't do this activity. I'm going to go into this just 2 tiny minutes because when we talk about term, everybody has been told 37 weeks. Another funny thing I'll tell you, when I know that the woman is at 36 weeks without looking at a file, when her mom or mom-in-law starts to come in. 9th month शुरू हो गया है. 9th month कोई तो बोलता है 9th month खत्म भी हो गया है, but it is not. But 36, 37 weeks, everyone starts to walk in. When will be the baby be born? And I'm like, I don't know. Who starts the process of labor? It's the baby. When the baby is absolutely ready, they send a tiny protein signal from the baby's lungs to the mother. And on the mother's side, there have to be 63 different hormones and chemicals which make her placenta ready to get the oxytocin receptors ready. Now, which of those are we going to control? Tell me. So baby has to be ready, mom has to be ready, and term is 40 weeks. What we see when women are induced and babies are born unnecessarily, 37 weeks to 39 weeks, they look like a healthy newborn, but they don't act like a healthy newborn. They have breastfeeding difficulties, they have other respiratory issues become more, they are not in the same space. So I'll come to that in a minute. 39 to 40 weeks and 6 days, which is 41 weeks, is what we call as full term. 41 to 42 weeks is late term, only after 42 weeks is post term. So unless and until we understand, and the first thing I do when somebody walks in is I say, okay, this is 2 weeks before, this is 2 weeks after. We are not going to induce you unless there is a real medical reason, right? So the last 4 to 6 weeks, what happens? Body, brain, breath, the 3 B's. Weight gain happens. Weight gain is so important in the baby to sustain temperature regulation, hormonal regulation, so much important that for the babies who are born with good birth weight do so beautifully. They don't lose so much of their body fat. There is sustainability. Even if the breastfeeding does not get to a quick start, they don't, they don't have other problems later on. Breath, like I told you, that is the one that is improving and the baby's lungs are ready to breathe outside. Brain, this is somebody nobody talks about. From 36 weeks onwards, the baby's brain increases 15 ml in volume, 15 ml every week. So get to 40 weeks, we have 60 ml better volume of the brain. Why would you want the baby to have less productive lifetime just because you decide it's time for the baby to come out, right? It's just doesn't make sense. So all these things are important. Stress of the labor is good for the mother, good for the baby, avoids cascade of intervention. And I really think that baby should choose its own birthday. So those are the hormonal cycles. Very, very briefly, oxytocin is the hormone of love. When you connect with your partner, with your friends, you give the hug, that's the hormone. It's also a very shy hormone. It's the hormone that is needed to conceive the baby. It's the hormone that's needed to start labor. It's the hormone that is needed to make labor progress. And when we take the woman and say, "Appa, itna sa pain aaya, hospital mein daud jao." That early labor, when you reach the hospital, oxytocin goes away, completely goes away. Right? And then it's the hormone that needs to birth the baby. It's hormone that's needed to birth the placenta. It's the hormone needed for breastfeeding. It's immensely powerful, yet immensely shy. Endorphins are the next hormones. They are nature's narcotics. They come in because when the uterus sends a pain signal, also we get the endorphin. That is when somebody at the start of the marathon you feel crappy, but at the end of the marathon you have a hormone high. That's the endorphins. They are nature's narcotics. Women will sleep between contractions because they feel safe. Now these catecholamines are supposed to come here. These are the fight or flight hormones. When you're on the road, suddenly you're in your car, a child runs out in front of you, you slap the brakes, That's the hormone. Your body is in fear, you're frozen, or you have taken an action either to run away from the scene, or you have taken an action to freeze, or those are the modes that this hormone brings in. But now when these come in early, like for example, when the woman is transferred from her home to the hospital really early, these come in, they put a brake on the labor. Then we say कि labor lamba chal raha hai, labor lamba chal raha hai, because we have not allowed the hormones to go. More oxytocin, more endorphins. This is where actually the catecholamines need to come. That is when the baby is ready to be born, because it also makes you alert. An alert mom, alert baby coming into this world, looking at each other is important for survival. So this is where it actually needs to come in, and oxytocin, prostaglandin, relaxin all coming in together gives production of prolactin is there, that allows for milk letdown to happen with oxytocin, and prolactin increase the breastfeeding dyads chance of having a good breastfeeding journey. What's the most thing that you hear? You hear doodh nahi aaya, doodh nahi aaya, doodh nahi aaya, doodh nahi aaya. I'm like, which other mammal goes asking? A cow doesn't go to a donkey asking for milk, and yet we are putting formula onto babies, right? Makes no sense, right? So this is the hormonal cycle of labor. How can you enhance it? Privacy, partner support, low lights, less talk, freedom of movement. I want to bring this on, and I want to take a minute for this. Okay, so how many times this scene is played in the media in different manner, right? She is a woman who is not in her senses, who is afraid of the pain. So everybody around her is thinking something needs to be done. This is a woman who needs saving. And then you go to the doctor, and the woman's mother asks the doctor in Telugu, she is saying that, but how can you tell her she needs a cesarean just without checking? But I am the doctor, he says. She needs a cesarean immediately. So then when we see this in the media, all of us, and especially the young women who see this kind of scenes, say, this is what is birth. There is a lot of shouting, there is screaming. I need to be saved from my own bodily process. So if any bodily function needs a maximum degree of relaxation, it is birth. Imagine going to sleep in middle of a busy train station, nothing will happen. This is where, when you keep getting overstimulated, you have an overtired and stalled labor. And I would say, think about this, that if you were doing your private business in the washroom and 10 people burst open, you would not be able to do it. The cervix is a sphincter, just like the anal sphincter, just like the urinary sphincter, it is a sphincter, and it will close. And so then we wonder why birth needs saving, right? I talked about this. Decreased pain perception is what happened with the endorphins. This is an actual quote from one of the mums who came to me to give birth. She says, I went into the tub, I fell asleep. Each time I opened my eye, my husband and my nurse were there to reassure me, give me sips of cold water and juice. It felt heavenly. She's describing labor, not a spa. But this can happen because you're in a safe environment and a calm environment. So what are the tools and tips that we have? First thing, education. Birth education, so important. So important, because unless the woman, the partner, the family, we invite even grandparents to attend it. Unless they attend the classes and unless they internalize it, it becomes really hard for them to manage labor. Prenatal yoga, aerobics. This mama was in her 39th week and 4 days, and she's a yogini herself and also a trained dancer, and that's how she is. And like, why do we tell women you can't do whatever you want? You can't sit on the floor, you can't walk, you can't scoot, you can't do anything. You can do whatever, as long as your body is healthy. And all of these are some of the comforting tools: relaxation, visualization. We teach all this in the class. Hypnosis, breath work, so important. And today at the end of this, one of my yoga instructors, she also had both her babies with me. She's going to come and do a bit of breath work with you also. Chanting, music, movement, changing positions, aromatherapy. All of this can be used in labor. Hot water bag, cold packs, birth balls, TENS machines. I don't use this all that much, but it's available. Tennis ball, you can stand and roll a tennis ball onto your back, and you have movement and you have comfort. Sterile water injections, all these are the ability to use all of this. Hugs, partner, I mean, they look like they are, you know, talking to each other. This is a great way to move labor, one would think, right? Water is amazing. We forget that water is the life cycle, no? So this couple came to me for their second birth, traumatized by their first birth, and they wanted to have a peaceful water birth. And eventually they reached down and with 4 hands, they brought their own baby out. It's just so beautiful when you witness those scenes of power and pleasure rather than pain and, you know, all the other stuff that we have been through. So the 3 R's are relaxation, rhythm, and ritual. Rhythm can be learned. Ritual can be external or internal. This is internal focus. This mom is into herself. Both of us are supporting her. This mom needed some additional, you know, like she would say, I can't do it. And I would hold her head and say, you can do it. And you change the can't into a can. And every contraction, she would relax. Every contraction, we would look at each other, and that's how she was doing it, right? And eventually she has a baby. We have to make her aware of how beautiful her body is and how capable it is to bring a baby out. So a few pictures here. This I can just run through. So much freedom of movement. You know, this mom again, she had a very traumatic first birth and didn't even know whether she wanted a second baby. She came to me for preconception, then had a baby. Lot of support. Here's a mom helping her. This mom had both her babies with me. She had back labor, which means the only back pain she will have, and she required 3 people pressing her back, and eventually she would have her baby, you know, and the baby would rotate and turn and descend. We talked about water, labor support, worth its weight in gold. She's sitting on the toilet seat while she's pushing her husband, mom, very calm and very quiet. This is a mom who had her 4.5 kg baby with me. It took a lot of effort, and her husband is usually, he was a little nervous about everything. This is her first birth. Second birth happened fairly easily. She's standing in the corner and I am giving the support, and then at one point I said, come on, you come and take over this. And even after the birth is over, she tells me, you know, that hug from my husband made me push on and have the baby. And it's so important to have the loved ones in that place where everyone is sort of you know, encouraging her and not feeling nervous about the whole event, right? This is in the water. She's almost ready to have her baby. There's a lot of midwifery skills involved. This mom had her first birth after a first cesarean section. This is a second birth she's having after a primary C-section, and she had a 4.5 kg baby as well. Both are pushing. This one is pushing into her own terms. You can see her growling. This one is pushing with her aunt's support, and it's almost feeling like she's not pushing at all. Just want to watch this video. My hands are nowhere near her perineum. See that? That's it. So when you look at this picture, where are my hands? One hand is holding her hand, somebody is pouring water. And why do we need to say push, push, push? Baby comes, right? Sorry, it's replaying again. I'll just...
This is so beautiful, Dr. Vijaya. It is not something that we have seen and were taught or have experienced, or it is something so totally different, you know. And
thank you. It is. And I have a lot of doctors who follow me and they'll say we are never allowed to do this, right? This is the baby in the bag of waters, because we are taught to break the bag. But bag is a support system for the baby and the mom. Why do you need to break the bag of waters? The literature says 1 in 80,000 births is the baby is born in the bag of waters. We have it once or twice a year. Many times, 1 or 2 times in a month, we have the head being born in the water, and then the body comes out once the bag is broken. So that's very common. Full baby in the bag of waters, like this whole thing floating around in a glass bubble, at least once or twice a year, because you don't need to do anything for those births. And that I did it moment of birth. People come from all over the world to give birth, but we are still very small. But still, people who find us come to us for this birth experience. She wanted a VBAC and she had a baby. This mom, like, where is the pain? Like, that's the moment of birth. There's no separation, right? Mother and baby together, love at first sight. I call it the newborn. One of my mentors calls it that, and I sort of have imbibed into it. The newborn baby and the 3-foot halo. Nobody should be in that moment, right? Alert mom, alert baby at birth, and no separation of the G of the baby. That's the delayed cord clamping. And again, I can take another half an hour to explain it, but 1/3 of the baby's blood is in the placenta at birth, 1/3. And by clamping and cutting the cord, we are allowing about that much. This much is still there. We are second day after the baby is born. If someone told us, can you donate your 1/3 of your baby's blood, we would shoo them out. But at birth, we are giving 1/3 less of the blood for the baby. That's 3 to 6 months worth of iron supply. That's the organ that's been the house of the baby for 9 months. Why are we in a hurry to clamp and cut the cord and separate the baby, right? That's the newborn bonding. That's minutes after birth. Look at that eye-to-eye contact. Why would I want to separate that? That's the first neurological imprints that this baby is getting. That I am safe, I am with my mom, versus in the warmer somewhere, somebody rubbing, someone drying, beep, 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 machines going, and the baby says, oh my God, I have to defend myself. They cry, and then they shut down for the rest of their life. And then we wonder why there is war on earth, because they have not been born peacefully. That's the moment that you want. That's the connection that you want each time that the baby is born. Skin to skin breastfeeding happens completely easefully. That is there. Oxytocin circle, mother, father, baby. We have 90% of our mothers laboring in water, 30 to 40%. Last year it was 20%. I'm not saying that every baby needs to be born in water, but women should have the comfort, and when needed should birth in water. So what would a woman want, this or this? Absolutely this. And so she doesn't want just consultations. I always say a consultation should be in the middle of a conversation. Let's have conversations about what you want. What does your body need? What is your social circumstances? What do you have as support systems for home? And do the consultation for 5 minutes, giving them pros and cons. Permission before touching and performing procedures. Again, मुझे करना है, मैं हाथ डाल रही हूँ. क्यों? Give them 5 minutes, no? Continuous labor support, no deadlines, and definitely no enema, and definitely few internal exams. So our model of care is based on autonomous midwife-led model, OBGYN support. We do have an operating theater. We have a level 1 NICU. We are able to take care of mildly complex circumstances. I would not say we are a level 3 hospital, but we don't take on extremely complex cases. We have twins birthing with us. We have had breech babies. We have one of the highest VBAC is vaginal birth after cesarean section. We have highest VBAC success rates in the country, primarily because nobody else even allows the woman to try for a VBAC. That's our center. Just a little glimpse. It's a room. It's not a 5-star hotel. And I often say this, it doesn't need to be a 5-star hotel. If you're going to check in with all the beautiful flowers, and if you have a 4-poster bed and you're being given cappuccino and mocha to drink, but you have a C-section, you could check into a hotel for that. Why do you want a hospital? You want a home. You want where things are calm, comfortable, peaceful. We don't even have a TV in our rooms. People, when my architect was, what do you mean you don't have TV? I'm like, people are not coming to watch TV here. They're coming to have a baby. Let's have a baby and get them out back to their home where they belong, right? So no fear in the birth room, calm, quiet, let the mother lead, support her emotionally, avoid invasive procedures, and follow the healthy birth practices. Women can be more in control. There are 3 quick, very short videos. the sound playing in the background is the couple went to Tibet, and they have chosen this Buddhist song, and it's so peaceful to hear that you cannot but be drawn into it, right? And I'm explaining to the nurse who is there, saying that, oh my God, you should cry, and so you don't need to rub the baby, hang the baby upside down, pat the baby. They transition a little slower in water birth, but even in land birth, they a little bit, as long as their color is good, as long as they are vibrant, you don't need to rub the heck out of them. Of course, there is a time and place for that also. 10% of all babies will need some assistance to take that first breath and make the transition. Only 1% will need extraordinary measures. So it's just being watchful at the moment. That's their birth. And so women's perceptions can be anything. I am thinking she's listening to my voice. She's like, nah, I don't care what you say. I'm going to look into your eyes. So women will cope with labor differently. She reaches down and touches her baby's head. This is at the moment of pushing. Look, that woman was fully in her senses. Where is the pain? Where is the, like lying down saying, Abba khatam ho gaya, chalo jaan chuta lakhon paye, like that, lying the woman. She's there. She's talking. She's looking at her husband. She's connecting with me. She knows that the placenta is coming out next. That's a rite of passage. She's brave, she's strong, she's taking on the challenges of motherhood, and she's bonding with her baby. And the baby's lesson is that life isn't going to be easy. It has a lasting impact, and birth has been designed to be as it is for a reason. So I think taking all that away and making it a scheduled process that needs to be completed makes very little sense to me. And that's where you can find us. Follow us on Instagram if you can. I put out a lot of information over there, and we do Lamaze accredited childbirth educators programs, and you can write to us. And thank you for all you do for mothers and babies.
This was an excellent session, Dr. Vijaya. Thank you so much.